So this is the combination heat cooking method, and the demonstration for this is a chicken fricassee. So I have my mise en place here for the chicken fricassee, the diced onions and the diced carrots, which you saw in the second week demonstration video. I have the dark meat chicken from the 8 cut, the French method cut, so the 2 leg and 2 thigh pieces. I have the aromatics of the thyme, the fresh thyme leaves. I have some fresh garlic, cream, butter, canola oil, and this is a method for doing the chopped garlic. So you're going to take your fresh garlic clove, cut it in half like that, and then take the flat of the knife that you see there, and you're just going to basically press it down like that to smash it using your heel, the heel of your hand, and the flat of the knife, and it gives you a nice, like, smashed crushed garlic that you can very easily just dice and then use in a recipe. It's a really good way of doing fresh chopped garlic from a whole clove, and you will have those cloves in your mise at home boxes. So in addition to the rest of the mise en place, you need to do this chopped garlic. Got a little ramekin for it there. So once you have your chopped garlic and your vegetables cut, you'll be ready to go. So just set my cutting board aside here. As you can see, I had the proper cutting board secured there. So there's the mise en place. So the first thing, we're going to start with our chicken, season the chicken fairly liberally with salt and pepper, and then after that's seasoned, we want to turn on the heat onto the saute pan, and you see I have a saute pan with slanted edges like that, so this is the proper type of pan to use for the fricassee. The fricassee is a combination heat method, so we're going to start with the dry heat cooking method, as in the saute. This is a very light saute. Fricassee is traditionally done very light in color. It's not browned completely like we saw in the sauteed chicken breast. So we just want to get our pan hot and heat it up, and then we're going to add the chicken breasts, again, skin side down. Start with the skin side down just like we did with the sauteed breast, and you'll hear the sizzle as it hits the pan. And we do want a hot pan to start firming up the chicken and rendering the fat in the skin, but again, we're not looking for browned chicken like we were in the saute. This is going to just basically be a very light, lightly colored chicken, because that's what a fricassee calls for. So now seasoning the bottom of the chicken while it's in the pan with the salt and then the pepper, and basically you're going to just turn the chicken once it starts firming up, which you'll be able to see here very shortly. So I'm just checking. It's got a little bit longer to set up there, so we're just going to let it cook a little while longer. Fricassee is basically the same method as doing any type of braised meat. Chicken cooks faster, so it's not a long-term cooking process, but it is the same type of processes for any type of braise you're going to do, or like a beef bourguignon type of beef stew, or even a dish with pork that would cook longer. So you can see the color of the chicken is starting to turn white. So, and you'll be able to tell that that it's firming up a little bit as it cooks. And really, again, that's pretty much all we want at this point. It's just to do a very, very light brown firming up of the chicken. Not even so much brown, it's just beige. So now the chicken is at the point where I want it. It's holding its shape, it's firm. So I'm going to take the chicken out of the pan. This is a very important step here. You're going to pour the excess fat off onto the chicken that's resting, so you have less fat in the pan. And so now you see the pan is still on heat, and I'm going to add the butter. And so this is the second step. So the chicken's been seared very lightly, and now with the pan still hot, I've added the butter, and you can see all the brown goodness in the bottom of the pan there from sauteing the chicken. So once that butter is melted and hot, I'm going to add the diced carrots and the diced onions that were ready to go previously, and then we're also going to add the chopped garlic here that we just did, and now we're going to saute those vegetables. So what we're doing is building flavor. So we've got there's that good, it's called fond, F-O-N-D, is what that's called, the browned bits at the bottom of the pan. And so we're going to be using the cooking juices of the vegetables are going to help to scrape up that foam off the bottom of the pan, and it's just going to add flavor to the sauce. So now I've got the vegetables are sauteed to the point where they're starting to turn a little translucent. So I've now added the flour. So the flour that's in your mise en place is going to go in at this point with the butter and the vegetables, and what you're doing is you're creating a roux, and we'll talk about roux more next week in our sauces class. But you're going to be adding the flour and cooking that with the vegetables until it starts to smell a little bit nutty, because you want the flour, that kind of raw flour flavor, to be cooked out of there. So you're going to get this really great smell of kind of the nutty smell of the flour and then the cooked vegetables. And when you're at that point, now we're going to take our stock, excuse me, so now we've got our chicken stock. We're going to add the stock in two parts. So the first part we're going to add, and we're going to see how I'm scraping off the bottom of the pan to collect all those really good cooked brown bits off the bottom of the pan to get that flavor in the sauce. And I'm going to stir that until it just starts to barely thicken and starts to kind of simmer and it's smooth, and then I'm going to add the rest of the stock. And now I'm going to stir that so it's well combined, and we want a nice smooth sauce. And the reason you stir the whole time is so that it doesn't get lumpy. So now it's smooth, it's all combined, and now I'm going to take my fresh thyme that's in your mise en place, and I'm going to just scrape off, just kind of pluck off some thyme leaves from a couple of the stems right into the sauce, right into the stock vegetable roux with the butter and flour mixture. And you'll see again the roux you'll see next week in sauces. It's basically equal parts of flour and butter excuse me, that combine to thicken a sauce. So then after the thyme is in there, just going to give that a little bit of a stir. You can see it's starting to come up to a simmer. So as it comes up to a simmer, I'm going to put the chicken back in, which will again lower the heat from the simmer. So we're going to bring it back up to the point where it's simmering, and really important, all those juices from the chicken resting, we want to pour those back into the pan. So we're just continuing to build layers of flavor here. So now once this comes up to the simmer, which you can see the constant simmer all the way around, we're going to turn the heat off, put a cover on it, and it's going to go in a 350 oven. And you're going to be looking at about 15 to 20 minutes in a 350 oven, depending on the size of your chicken. But again, we want it to be cooked to 165 degrees Fahrenheit, which is the safe temperature for chicken. So this is about 12 minutes later, and we're going to carefully lift the lid off, and you can see how on the leg how the meat is starting to pull away from the bone a little bit. If you temp this, it would probably be exactly 165 degrees. So we're going to take our cooked chicken, and as you can see, it's a very light beige, but still light in color, which is what a fricassee should be. Now that chicken, we're going to keep that chicken warm. So in a restaurant, it would go, for example, in a warm oven or under the heat lamp temporarily. Now we're going to crank up the heat, and we're going to just reduce this sauce down a little bit until it's thick enough to coat the back of a spoon. And so with this type of a fricassee, we're not looking for a thick gravy texture. We're looking for almost like a thickened cream texture. So a rather light sauce that coats the back of a spoon. As you can see there, I just put the last ingredient, the heavy cream, in there, and that's going to help thicken and emulsify our sauce as it reduces. And usually you're looking at about, just somewhere between 2 to 3 minutes, sometimes 4 minutes of cooking time. Good reduction time. So here we've come back, and you can see the difference, how it's a little bit thicker. You can see how it's coating the spoon really nicely. Great color, nice light color with the carrots and the thyme in there. So now we're going to come over to our chicken that's kept warm and sauce our chicken. And I had tasted this before I finished it. So you always want to season your sauces to taste to make sure that they're exactly right. And there you have the chicken fricassee.